that we are having, we've been thinking about it. Why is it that the more the woman evolves and becomes better, the more destabilized the state of unions are? Is it that we are safer with the women that we had then than we have today? And what's the relationship between going to school and refusing
I
to be a
don't
woman?
think, to be honest, and this could bring me problems even in my house, but I don't think it was meant to be so.
Okay.
Like, somehow the man was expected to be the leader. In many ways, I understand.
Okay.
Back in the day, the guy was the one, most of the men were out there, if it's in the workforce, they're the ones doing, most of the work. If it's in the menial work, ya kupanda, na kupalilia, those are do things with like two ngombes and all that. And somehow, over time, of course, as you say, things began to change. More women appeared in the workplace. They began to get more educated. They got positions. They started challenging even some of the positions that were predominantly for men, And things began, a tide began to change. In fact, that tide is changing so fast that we're in a point where, for the first time, I think, in the history of man, we probably have a lot more women CEOs than we do men.
Okay.
If not 50-50. They get into a point, and if you go down the managerial places, you find procurement managers, general managers,
Mama what?
Hey, there are many. Imagine so bad, so much so that you saw LSK and how many ladies they had, and those things then come with their own set of. They present new problems, especially for the men folk. Some would say that of course the women who are empowered will say that the men who have not reached those positions are not being man enough. They don't know how to handle a woman who has got position and power. They cannot be able to match up with her and that kind of thing. But I think inbuilt, and this is why you see an exodus of men who a man will have a beautiful wife, very well empowered. Then he'll end up with some funny looking mama. Even the wife is like, the guy ended up with very nini. But only for one reason. To some degree, he feels powerful there. Maybe it's the way he's talked to, or the fact that she's earning government salary as a PP1 teacher, and now his salary is 6 times hers. He can ooze some power again in the house. Because, unfortunately, some women who have that amount of power also haven't handled it well. I don't know, Silas.
Yeah. But I'd want to know, Silas. The question to you, Silas, is what is the relationship? Because now what he's bringing out clearly is that there seems to be a relationship between money and power or authority. Around what is the relation between having money and not having money in a relationship? Because you're still a man, whether you have chums or not. Anyway, you're still the man in the house, or it changes. The woman becomes the man in the house if they have chums.
I think it starts from the way we relate with women, what you call the gender roles. There are gender roles that were assigned either by God or by they've been nurtured. You'll find that whatever that men can do with provision, protection, already a woman can provide for herself. Okay. If it's protection, the state can protect them, like the police are there, So the role of a man in a woman's life, it's becoming more and more limited. Basically, everything that a man can do for a woman can find a solution, including sex. I think you've even seen like sex toys that are being sold online and all that. Yeah? So that kind of utility. It means that if a woman is providing for herself, if as a man you are coming to her life, she'll still want you to provide. But say if a woman is earning, let's say, 100,000 Kenyan shillings or more, it means as a man you have to earn more than that. Because women find it very difficult to submit to a man who's beneath them in terms of maybe income, like all parameters. Women always marry upwards. They don't marry downwards. It's men who marry down. So that's where the problem comes in. Because now there are fewer and fewer men that women can marry upwards. Because if you're a woman and you're earning, like you're educated, like you have a degree, and you're earning, let's say, more than 80,000 Kenyan shillings, it means that you've locked out almost 99% of the men.
Oh yeah, because they said how many people have got 100,000 or more in their accounts.
Around 80,000 Kenyans.
Yeah, 80,000, yeah.
So
They're very few.
So that's where the problem general comes in.
What are the chances that you'll find among them if you're looking within that scale of those who have
But Silas, but let me say, but there are men who have married up.
But that's the exception, not the rule. And like it will be like 1 in 100. It really happens. Like women, it's not like we ain't like really like blaming women because that's not how they're created. Like they were created, they need like to marry a man who's older, who's mature, who can protect and provide for. Like women still expect men to play those roles, only that those roles have been substituted either by them getting jobs so that they can provide for themselves, by the state offering security. But if still as a man you're coming into her life, she still wants you to be a man in that relationship. But how many men have like the means?
I think for me that's not for me I think the fear that's there right now, because most men will shy off from marrying a woman who already is out of their pay grade.
No, we don't really shy off because we also expect in the same principle of the utility of sexes.
Yeah.
You mentioned that sometimes men go you have this beautiful educated wife, but you go now to get someone else who's far below a cadre. We still expect women to be women. We want that feminine, that nurturing,
that humility
role. But you see, the more a woman earns, the more a woman goes up, the more her masculine side comes out. So you'll find that if in the house, she's very competitive, So that's where the problem comes in. So that's where you'll find like a man can even have now an affair with the house help, can go there, even like waitresses. You've seen in my book, I talk about waitresses.
Yeah.
It's not like those women are beneath or below. It's that those women are some of the few are remaining that who have that femininity in them. Because for a man, what you want in a woman is femininity.
Are we saying femininity equals control?
No, it's not about control.
Because that's what No. I'm glad women are not listening. Because if a woman is listening and actually talks here, I'll be very shocked.
Think of femininity as the way you think of your grandmother.
Yeah.
You don't want to control your grandmother. You love her because she's caring, she's loving, It's not about a question of control.
Because I think one of the fears isn't that you got into a relationship with because even me, I know I ran away from. There's one particular relationship I can remember off the bat when I was dating, of a girl who showed up for a date with a Prado.
And they got scared.
It was hers. I ran for the hills. I was like, I didn't even have a car, you guy. Hey! I ran for the hills. I was like,
you were intimidated.
I was like, huyu sasa?
Utamwambia nini?
Tutambiana nini?
Because men are realistic.
Yeah, so I could not see and then they want you to drive, and you're driving something that's not, you had no hand in acquiring.
You'll know when you're not measuring up.
So that's not my fear. My fear has always been, and this has happened to many men, and even at some points in my households, there are moments, now you're married, maybe you had this amount of things going for you. Your jobs are working out, you've got X amount of money. Your wife is not exactly up the ladder. And then over the time, things change. Suddenly your wife gets 1, 2, 3 promotions. Kidogo, she's the MD of a place. You are still stuck in
that zone.
Uko down kwa ile desk ya data entry. Now you're being out-earned. You are not out-earned when you are starting, but you're married.
It happens. That's the fate of many marriages.
Yeah, so now how do you deal with that one?
Yeah, but I don't understand why Levi would be intimidated because a woman shows.
You'd be intimidated, you guy.
It's not really intimidation. It's that for a woman, she'll always want better from a man.
Okay.
Like that's if you're married and you see your wife is making some boss moves, as a man, you must be on your feet. Now, the problem with most men is that we settle. Okay. And women, they get more and more ambitious the older they grow.
Yeah, because their number one complaint is that this guy.
By the time you are your late 30s or early 40s, I think most men, they have sort of like settled. If you're a teacher, maybe the best you want for yourself to be a principal. If you're a lecturer, you just want to move across and sort of like become a professor. Like you don't have those like wild ambitions. But then you find like millennial women have been offered these opportunities that are massive. There's room for career growth.
Yeah.
Safaricom, KCB, they're pouring money. Like,
you're very right.
There's a lot of women funds and all that. So,
yeah,
like the world has become an oyster for women. So most men don't have similar opportunities. But if you're married, it means that now you must be constantly on your feet, not really competing with your wife. There's something that we call having your frame intact. Ensuring that as a man, you don't lose it, you don't feel intimidated, you don't feel insecure,
But one of the major drifts is that what you just mentioned. The number one problem seems to be that this guy used to be ambitious. Most women who are, up and up, they've made those boss moves that you've talked about, may complain that about the guy after a while. When I met him, he had dreams, he had ambition, he had drive, he was ready for things, and now I don't see it anymore. And I think I agree with you in the sense that, they also expect, hence the term power couple,
Yeah.
Because power couple is not one-sided.
Yeah.
It's two people making both moves.
It's people making both moves. But also, for men, as I said, we settle. And there's something we call female hypergamy. Hypergamy is the wish, like women always want better in life. And constantly, maybe if you're a man, you'll find that maybe she's comparing you with her boss, she's comparing with her peers, And for men, we don't like that kind of competition. So sometimes you might find that even within the marriage, you're not discouraged, Because if she's working, like, let's say, in a blue chip company, she's seeing men making those boss moves out there. And then for you are stuck somewhere. And sometimes there are no opportunities for you to grow. So men sort of like become discouraged. And that's why I try to tell men, like, don't be discouraged. You have to keep on moving. Hypergamy is not a bad thing if it's well moderated. But in the event that you find now she's too much, now you have to step back and think about now your future without her, if she wants maybe to move on. Because ultimately, if hypergamy is too much, she'll definitely leave, So that's why as a man, like, you have to do your best. And if you realize that your best is not good enough, then now you have to be ready to part ways rather than die of stress, because also men are dying of stress out here, or we are forced to go into fraud and, that kind of stuff.
Just to match up. Anyway, naona mama ameingia. Kina Rosemary Kabigo anasema aje rafisa sisi. I want to still repeat this. This is men only. Men only. Tafadhali Rosemary, tokeni nje. And you can copy the link and send it to a man in your life or a man in someone else's life. Got any having this conversation. But then again, when it comes to money, as you're talking about the fact that the balance scale is almost getting even between men and women. And there's also another reality that it seems to be tilting. That women are making more money than men as we move forward. Or even sometimes you find that men are not having any income at all. And you find that your man is empowered. Now, the reason why probably we took responsibility, men took responsibility of the provision and all that was that time because by default, men held the factors of production in terms traditionally. But now that is shifting. So why is it that there's a big problem when it is the man who is being propped up by a woman who is probably getting income or earning, holding some level, some factors of production. And it becomes a problem when it's a man that is being held, or being propped. And it's not a problem when it is a woman who is being held up. Where do we get these rules? Like, shida iko hapi if your woman is earning more.
It's just what it said. It was not supposed, I think natural order.
It was never supposed to be like that, but here we are right now.
Yeah.
And see, for women, this is like the current generation of women are the first one to hold this kind of power, this kind of money. Our mothers never had this kind of money. So at the moment, even most women, they don't know what to do with the power, because like I saw in the Kenya demographic and health survey of, I think 2019, they said women aged between 18 to 34 were doing better than men in the same. And you can see like this hustler fund, the women fund, whatever, UN women, you don't have like UN men or whatever, like a lot have been done to upgrade the status of women in society, which is a good thing. So it's now men now to step up. Like there's no way that women can calm down. It's for men to step up. But now the challenge is once you step up, then what next? Yeah. So that's where now the problem comes in. So generally, basically, women are not used to power. Like they have never held this kind of power. And anyone hata kijana mwenye hajazoea pesa akipata pesa mnaona vile usumbo, unaona. So like at the moment they have the power, but they don't know that power comes with a lot of responsibilities. Power comes with a lot of accountability. So that's now what they're struggling with. But in another 10 or 20 years, we'll have now a different world, because we now will have come to terms with the power.
And there's still some expectance. You know, I see two issues even when I talk about with friends, especially who have undergone maybe the horrendous experience of being the one without a job, and then your wife is the one supporting you. One of two things happens. Either one, you get supported, but you get reminded. You know. And then
Kifanya kitu kidogo nakumbushwa.
Kuna pia ile tunaitaka kiburi ya pesa. Hiyo kiburi ya pesa is when, for example, you're just chilling in your home and suddenly, you know, a Go TV guy enters and he's fixing things. Go TV daribika jana nilituma mtu leo. You're not even consulted anymore. You're not a dude who can be consulted. You have got no say because you have no money. You know. So things are just happening. One day movers are just bringing in a new fridge. Umeketi hapo. You know, you begin to feel there's either one of those two things. The second thing is,
it's like you're part of the furniture in the house.
Part of the furniture in the second thing that happens sometimes is you get, and I've seen this with, like I say, some people who have had a chat with, you know, heart to heart. You know, a man comes and tells you, Maze, this is what's happening, bana. My wife would send me to the supermarket. She knows I've got no money. And then she tells me when I get there, nimpigie simu, alipe kwa till. Jamaa anaenda anafanya shopping, anapiga simu, wife ashiki, yako busy. The guy is at the counter, bana. He has carried all these things. You know, man, the cashiers are like,
Unaambia na watu hapo nyuma songa bana. Nini?
He's not trusted enough to send the money to make the payment. Again, I call that again, yo kiburi ya pesa, yo inaingianga. There's a way, in fact, this gentleman puts it quite well. There's a way, unajua walisema watoto wale walikuwa na pesa wanasumbua. There's a way money can enter and disturb and rock your mind. I mean, people always make fun at guys who get 1 million shillings and they blow it like they were enjoying this old man who blew you 600,000 in a few days. Yeah? Some of the people laughing at him have not held 500,000 shillings to begin with. Wapewe tu leo. Waone ile confusion inaingia kwa kichwa and how you cannot even lala.
Unachanganyikiwa siku yote mzima.
Unangojea nini ifunguliwe asubuhi, supermarket ifunguliwe, wewe ununue TV kubwa. You're calling even the supermarket, what time are you opening? Are you people serious? How can you not be there at 8? You become a very arrogant guy on the other side. So that happens a lot. There is a rare coincidence with some mamas who will actually prop up a guy until the guy bounces back. And you know what they say, the love of a woman is known when you have nothing. The love of a man is known when
you have everything.
When he has everything. So there's also the fear, because so many stories of men who had nothing, who were propped up by women, who became something and then left those women for other places, are propped up so that women are now petrified. So when a guy has nothing, they don't want to sidea him too much.
Yeah.
You know, your wife will not give you money until kweli aone igari the red light is on. We're actually going to run out of fuel. Now she'll fuel because she doesn't want to be embarrassed.
Like female support is very conditional. Female support, like for them to support, is very conditional. That's what Levi is saying.
Okay, is it?
Yeah.
How do you think it's a visit? But there's something that Levi has also brought up about the issues of, you know, someone or your woman does something for you, and then one day you're just chilling, umekalea miguu hapo juu, unatulia, unakumbushwa kitu ulifanywa in 1952.
Yeah, sometimes the story, even amongst like a party is going on, and then you know, like, hey babe, I did so well to buy that TV. Look at how it's ideating us. Your boys are there, everyone is there. It's not an argument. Kuna ile ni argument in your land. But now the whole world knows you have got nothing to do with your new TV up on that wall.
You know, people say that men have an ego problem, but also we forget that women also are very egoistical. So it's also an ego thing when they do that kind of thing. And another thing that people should know that is generally women hate spending their money, especially on a man. That's why no woman ever gifts men anything sensible. Maybe a pair of boxers or handkerchief. Like for women, the idea is to spend a man's money. Even the women who have money, the idea is for them to spend your money. But when it comes out, they have to spend their money on you. Most women, it makes them sick. So that's why they always feel very resentful, you know. They're like,
you know, this guy is spot on. You know, let me tell you something. I can't name names, but I've got some friends I know who, you know, in the past, a woman is earning a man 3 or 4 times his salary. Sindio?
Okay.
Guy is earning, let's say, 50,000. The woman, let's say, is earning 200. The rent is like 40K. The guy will pay rent.
Okay.
yeah.
Abaki na 10. And somebody is playing with Miambili. There are men listening to me right now who are on Fuliza. And their wives have never taken an Mshwari loan. Never.
Listening to you or sitting with you.
Never. Their records are clean. Ajawai sijui and that guy has borrowed Hustler Fund juicy. He's battling. You know, you sleep in the same bed, but you're battling different battles, bana.
Exactly, like I've written about it, we call it like financial abuse. It's very common, especially in middle class marriages, whereby the husband will still carry more financial burden than the wife. The wife, like Levi is saying, could be earning more, like 4 times. The husband earns far less, but all the burden of provision,
Still
like all the financial responsibility of the marriage. That's what we find like after divorce, most divorces, you'll find like men start from scratch.
Yeah.
And a woman just remains where she wasn't, or she gets
Most
better.
from that,
You know, it's because most men, especially in your late 20s, early 30s, you spend so much money in the recurring bills, you know.
And that's why men have no savings.
It's hard to say because the burden of the black tax in Africa, I don't have the numbers, but I still think like men shoulder like 80% of the black tax. So that's what, like even the latest research that was released about how people borrow money and where the money goes. There's always like it's a one-way traffic towards women, towards relatives, you know, and nobody's coming to rescue men. So those are some of the challenges that men face, and we try to encourage them that you really have to have a serious conversation about money in your marriage. Like it's a very uncomfortable thing, but the sooner you get it right, the better. Yeah.
There's someone here who's writing and saying, "Hi Gerald, thanks for the new show." And he's saying that he thinks us as men, we use our active years making a lot of mistakes. Like maybe when we are still active, getting income and all that, we use it to make a lot of mistakes. Maybe booze, maybe other women, you know, the crazy things that people can do. And then you get to your old age when you're not productive enough, and you start being a burden, especially to the woman that you have. And women use their active years to build up capital and you know, try to build some consistency in their life. They're saying a lot of things we have to blame ourselves as men.
Is
Some active years tunatumia kupiga shit.
is extremely erroneous. Eh?
Who's saying that, by the way?
No. It's very erroneous in the sense that, you know, that I told people, like, people who piga sherehe in this Nairobi are very few people. It's very easy to get the notion that...
And they're the same group of people.
It's the same group of people. Like, I've been clubbing all my life. Like, if you go to Ngong Road and you pop into these clubs on Ngong Road, 70% is the same people you'll see day in, day out. Most men don't have that luxury of messing around with the money. There are a few, of course, who make those mistakes, but most men are burdened by that burden of provision.
You know, we have to do... There are 2 tiers of men. Tier 1 is these alpha dudes who've gotten everything. They're working usually for government or some government, something. Or they're entrepreneurs. Or they are businessmen with not so credible business stories or information, but they're making wild money.
Okay.
You know, they're living in Runda, they're living in Laughington. Some of them were left money from they've got money from old money, they call it. Imepita, now they've got really nothing to do with it. Those guys are spending a lot of time on sherehe. They lose 200,000 today, it doesn't matter. They'll get 400,000 in the morning. Okay. You know, they are very few.
There are very few. It's like 1%, not even 1%.
Bulk majority, tier 2.
Okay.
They are earning, they are doing bills, school fees, all those things. Hata wakipiga sherehe, usually, it's one, maybe the guy was prang on one small deal of 10 guanyes. He went somewhere, there was like a PDM for a seminar, akapewa. Akaona hii, wacha ni kule. That's why I say it's important for men. Even if you're earning a salary as a man, do one good thing for yourself. If it's a barber shop, go to that nice barber shop. At least that once in a month. Kama unaga ya 50 bob, enda ya so 5 siku moja.
Tengeneza uso
Kama ni food, enda ukule sasa
kula ribs.
When you get do one thing that you can tell yourself enyewe, I'm working. Because the bills are never changing.
It's very easy to neglect yourself.
It's very easy to, yes.
But then again, even as we wind up on that conversation that this gentleman has raised, why is it that men, when you compare men and women, men retire poor? A lot of men are the ones who retire poor, not doing well, depressed and all that, without any resource or savings, or anything to hold on. And it's common when you look around, you realize that a lot of men who are retiring very poor, very desperate, and they retire as dependents. While women retire with some level of security. They have some savings somewhere, they have like a business running at a place, they still have their life running even in retirement and old age. What brings in the difference in this?
I think, as I said earlier, it starts especially from financial business. Generally, women are good with money. Most, no, not all women. But then, remember in the early years, men are, but like in your most active years, when you're making the most money, when you're talented, when you're at your peak, you will waste your years, especially for men who marry early. You'll waste your years providing for your no. The word wastage sounds bad, but like you spend so much time. School fees, paying rent, like initial setting up a family is extremely very.
The recurrent expenditure is high.
Recurrent expenditure is very high, And then you see the women normally hide on those. I'm not saying like all the women who provide. We really have to emphasize that. But most women will hide behind, like let me call them like sort of like the smaller bills, as the man is trying to shoulder like the bigger bills. So you'll find like women are saving in the chamas, all those chama meetings in a circle everywhere. But as a man, your cash is always kept busy. And the women who are very smart, they have to ensure that you're constantly broke. So as a man, that's why like this message now we are preaching to men about the red pill, that you have to think about your retirement. We always remind men that you'll probably be alone in your 50s, not necessarily like divorced. Your wife can decide to go to America to follow the kids. And utajipata umebaki kumajani peke yako.
Aenda kushika grandson.
So right now, we tell men now, actively you must start saving for your retirement. Because now we have seen, like what you've mentioned, men are retiring broke. And retirement catches up with you, just like a joke. So men now have to start playing an active role. To know that you're burdened already, but now also think about the future. But that's the difference, that women, their resources that they protect, they guard.
I think also
we
have to take into consideration the fact that men are, a lot of us men are not imagining we will retire. We live in a country where the probability of you being around at 57 is very low.
Very low, by the way.
Honestly speaking.
By 57, you are kaput.
That's life expectancy.
Life expectancy in Kenya is like 60.
It's 57. It's 57 for dudes.
So it means that we need to save enough, because if we are living fewer years, then they better be.
No. So many guys are on a gang-ho free lifestyle, and then it surprises you when suddenly you're around at age 2. Because imagine and if you look even right now, between accidents and we know how guys drive. Today I was just coming from LD, just between Nakuru and Nairobi. A lot of stupid accidents because of testosterone. Ujinga tu, those are men. Subaru imekupita unachoma. Already will not amepitwa. So already there are so many risk factors you're doing. On a Friday night, you going out versus you staying in the house. If you go out, that's a risk factor. You can be shot, you can be robbed, you can be, gongwad by a moti. A lot of things could happen to you out there. But many men will take that risk, even in their 30s, even in their 40s.
Okay.
So already with all the risks in play, the chances of us not being around is very high. So some guys at the back of their mind imagine that utapiga tu sherehe na wishi tu because after all tomorrow we die.
I think the problem is the less money you have, the longer you live.
Not necessarily.
In fact, what? Most times I used to joke around. Sellers are coming in, sorry. Most times I joke around and say, you see the guys who are joking around killing money asubuhi. Those are billionaires. You know why?
They fear death.
Now they've made money. Now the only thing they are fearing
is death.
Takufa ni wache. Wacha niwe jogging.
Na hapo unafanya kazi, unaruka, unapanda
asubuhi. I want to be fit. Nini wants to be around. A poor guy,
Lakini haendi. So I think the biggest message here is, Silas, I don't know if you'll agree with me. Do you still have something else to add? I think we need to start speaking to men about, thinking ahead, thinking about your retirement. Thinking about not even retirement, you can be incapacitated. Something can happen to you.
Yeah.
You might be driving around the way Levi is saying, rushing around your Subaru, uingie expressway, vunjike kiuno. I mean, anything. You can be incapacitated. You can be unemployed. Anything can happen to you. Retirement. But I think the biggest shame is retirement for men, because men wind up in a very terrible way. And I think we are not raising this conversation well enough to tell men that you need to start preparing for your retirement. Prepare for the days that you would imagine that you are the only person who can prop yourself up. Are we really having that conversation enough? Because even when you look at saving schemes, men are not saving. What do you make of it?
No, I agree with you. And by the way, we've been having that conversation in what we call like the red pill movement online. One thing that we can learn from women is the idea of living for the self. Living and maybe loving. Men don't love themselves. Men are sort of like brought up to be selfless. Like if you are the firstborn in your family, you can provide for you, even forget yourself. So the first thing that you can learn from men is maybe learning to value yourself as a human being.
Have self-care.
Have self-care. And we need to now actively think about that retirement. Like there's room to elevate that conversation. I know we are squeezed, like not many men have enough resources to spare to save, but it's something to start thinking about actively, because sometimes you don't even think about it. Mshahara inaingia, yote inatoka hivyo. So like this insurance firms, banks, they need to come up with like saving schemes that men can take up, that kind of stuff. Yeah. Like we have to be very deliberate.
Are you preparing for your retirement?
Yeah,
have you thought about it?
Oh yeah.
Have you actually imagined that about it?
Do I have the money for it right now?
That's one question of money. Men we always don't have money. Do you get worried? Do you get worried about you? Sometimes do you just live?
I get worried about next year. I want to get for retirement. We get worried about 2023.
Do you worry about security? Do you think about
absolutely security? I think I was telling Silas earlier when we were in the car that sometimes my wife will tell me something like the gas has kushed and it's at night or gas ilisha leo, and then she'll fall asleep. In her world she has offloaded the problem. In my world I'm awake, thinking maybe I've got 300 bob in my pocket. What am I going to do to get this gas in the morning? Then suddenly you have loss of sleep, and then tomorrow you've got loss of a day because you are now dozing when you're not supposed to be dozing, and still you have to sort out the problem that has been given unto you. I think men, we worry generally over all these things. What's important for me is to have, because sometimes it's not easy to save alone. It isn't, to be honest. For many of us, we get caught up in the day-to-day living, and you find that even when you wanted to genuinely have savings, it just doesn't happen. You got 100,000 shillings, and somehow your bills came to 99,500. Your 500 ingine, ya time una ya kupigia watu sasa. Somehow it'll come out that way. So maybe we need to be deliberate where, the women are deliberate. Those chamas of theirs. Have you seen when somebody does not...
check for their months.
Does not give money how wanapelekana mbio. We have to pick up a lesson from them.
Yes.
Yeah. And then do it. Because if we do not do it, because there's safety in numbers, maybe one of us cannot buy a plot here today, but maybe 3 of us can.
Yeah. Sure.
And tomorrow that plot could be threefold, and then all of us can get some money out of it, and we can grow. The tricky bit comes in having the men that you can trust to do that with. Because again, the problem is we have a lot of men that are just conniving and cunning.
And men have conned even their friends.
Yeah.
That's also the weak link. Pesa ya chama. That's another weak link. Women generally, even the loans, part of the reason lenders favor women is that women are generally trustworthy. Women normally return when they're given the money. So it's also something to work as men now to cultivate that trust. Like, can you have your boys club who can stand for you, by you, you know, and you can do things together? Because Nairobi kuna wajanja wengi sana.
Wengi.
I've been conned, I think, twice in those chamas. Someone comes with very good intentions, then you changa, nini. By the third month, someone collects the money and then
they're buying a protein olepolos.
They just disappear. I know there's nothing you can do this guy. Maybe you can
have sent money to the wrong M-Pesa twice.
In the town.
Both to men. Both times I didn't get.
You didn't get it from men.
Yeah.
All right. Men allowed to date upwards.
Yeah.
Are men allowed to date upwards?
To date upwards?
Upwards?
Yes.
No.
Why?
I mean, I'll tell a guy no. From the get-go. Like, it's different. If you dated and suddenly your person became appointed something. But from the beginning, ati wewe ni bodaboda rider na yeye ni CEO wa kampuni fulani. Forget it, man.
It really works.
Forget it.
It really works, and not because like there's anything inherently wrong with men or women, but women are not designed to date downwards unless she's really coming from a point of desperation or she has like emotional problems, and maybe she's fine maybe a gym instructor who's boosting her self-esteem, but generally it really doesn't work because women need leadership, and leadership can only come when you date at your level. It's all about power, and generally when it comes to dating, unfortunately, women and power, they don't handle power very well, especially in a relationship when they have that upper edge in a relationship. Generally, they don't hold it very well, and most men feel insecure. Even when this woman is telling you something that is genuine or it's coming from a good place in her heart, you'll always feel insecure. So it's never healthy. It's not a healthy arrangement. So the best is to date or marry at your level. Nowadays, they try to discourage men also not to date too much downwards, because vienyeji ndio upigwa watu character development mzuri kabisa. Like those men.
There's some nonsense that goes around that there's an imagination that, you talked about those gym instructors and stuff that because a guy down there can have good sex with a lady who's on the up and up, then that sustains the relationship only for some time. Okay. What sustains relationship usually, honestly speaking, is what kind of conversations you can have. Now, sex could be a plus. It's good if you can have good sex. Yeah? It's good if it can be right all the time. But I also know many women who have dated men who don't necessarily have good sex with them. But after all that is said and done, what are you going to converse about? How she has spent the whole week at conferences, meeting, CEOs from Nigeria, NGNs, discussing, atomic equations and chemical imbalances.
Wewe unakuja hapa kusema kuna ya Nigeria. Ametoka kuwa na serious conversations about the effects of climate change, mambo ya GMOs was going on and all that. Wana GMO constitute, anafika nyumbani unaanza story hapo.
Unaanza story yako. Unasikia akisema shenzi sana.
It's all about conversation, because women normally fall in love with something specific in a man. It can be your looks, your money, your sex game, and that thing can only last up to a certain point. After that, they lose interest very fast, and she can always get good sex from
but then again, Silas, when we are doing these valuations, because we tend to, and I think we tend to imagine that, okay, when you talk about how we're talking about money, of course, and power. But then again, there could be other balance in terms of worth, Butter trade, remember, mtu analeta millet, mwingine analeta mahindi, anasema zinatoshana, we exchange. You're not necessarily exchanging the same product, but you're exchanging the same value. Maybe, as a man, maybe you don't have money, but you have those conversations that you can talk about, you can build up something, and maybe you have a trajectory along the way. What is the danger of blanketing and saying, fine, don't date up? Because when you talk about value and money, is it only money? Or there could be other things?
Money is just a factor in a relationship. What women want is leadership. Is a man who can lead. Is a man, as we say, a man on his mission. Even if you don't have money, your wife or a woman wants to see you like you're waking up and you're hitting the grind, like you're grinding, A man who's like a leader, even if you don't have money, it's easy now for a woman to even submit to you. So women, you know, there is that evolutionary need for them to be protected, to feel like they're secure with a man. So money is basically like the surface thing. Because when you have money, already like you're a few steps ahead. But money alone cannot sustain a relationship or a marriage. If you have money, but you're trash or you're ghetto, you know, you don't offer leadership, you don't love her, you don't do your manly role, she'll still leave you, or she'll try to find a man who's manly. That's why sometimes you find like your wife can sleep with the security guard because the security guard maybe has that masculine energy. So that's why, like, as a man, you have to cultivate that masculine energy in you. Like, she wants to see that leader, that protector. Like, she has to feel it. The moment she doesn't feel it, then now she'll start now weighing her options with other guys. So money is actually a very poor barometer when it comes to measuring like how our relationship is going. In fact, some of the most divorced people are middle-class men, and they are men of means. But once your wife senses that uko hivi fugu nini, and they just leave. So money is good to have money, but ultimately it boils down to leadership. And leadership is a man who is in his frame, is a man who's in mission, who is in his mission. Not wavering. Like even when you're in doubt, when things are not working, she wants to see you like you're trying, you know. So it's called the burden of performance. Like you have to keep on performing and doing better than the previous day. Yeah.
There's something that's come up, and that is the statement of you are not man enough, or you should be man enough, you should be this and that. What is being man enough? What is man enough? Man enough ni kuwa nini? Aswa.
Depends on who's asking and what it means. Because I think also sometimes it's used to how do I call it? To make you, to shake you into doing something, and then sometimes it's used to just put you down. You know, you're not being man enough. But I think for men, it's important to have that what's it called, the balance of your own feet as to what a man is and who you are in the definition of your manhood. Because, for example, sometimes you can have an argument with your girlfriend, and you argue and you argue and you argue. And she says something very stupid, and you begin to work up, and then the next thing anakuambia ni nini, hata wewe so nipige kama wewe ni mwanaume, nipige kama wewe ni mwanaume, nipige. Now, if you hit her, then the only thing that will be known from that whole story, regardless of anything she ever said, you're a wife beater, you're a batterer, you're nini, that is the plug you get. But here you are being challenged in the statement, kama wewe ni mwanaume.
Yeah.
If you don't beat her, then maybe you're not man. You see where the dilemma is? So for you have to be grounded yourself in what you imagine your manhood to be. Because every man will pass through that point at one point or another. Yeah. Somebody you love, either your wife or your mother,
sister,
will challenge you you're not man enough on this. Your brother, your sister, someone will tell you you're not man enough. So the question is, when they tell you that, what will you hear in your own mind? Because that thing has made guys go either one of two paths. Either to be very rigid and be able to carve out their own path and stand on their own 2 feet, or to go completely off the cliff and do something really stupid in their chasing the evidence of their manhood. Okay. But again,
so what is being man enough?
Well, it's many things. It can't be one thing. Silas has alluded to some of them in terms of leadership, in terms of focus, in terms of plan, in terms of you knowing where you want to go, in terms of you. Actually, most of it revolves around how you have planned your own life and what your values and your principles are in your achievement of your things. But I think because that being a man enough is not something you can answer in one sentence, then we should be able to teach it, in my opinion. Zamani, those days, if you go back to many of these communities, you'll find that old men sat with young men and said a few things to them. When they went to those initiation processes, no matter what it was, whether it was you're being cut or your teeth were being removed, whatever it was, you had discussions about what it meant to be a man in the community and what you are expected to do. We've lost that somewhere along the line. There are people who will bash you, because even last time I was here, some single mothers were telling me, you said that every man needs a man. Even some of the most single mothers have raised men. Look at Barack Obama. Look at CG, what they were raised by single mothers. There is no man raised that never had a father figure somewhere, including Barack Obama. Maybe not a father.
Even a grandfather.
But there was a father figure. There was a man who spoke into that guy's life, who said something that made that guy, because he was not admiring women, Barack Obama did not want to become a woman. He wanted to become a man who was going to be the leader of the free world. You know, measuring himself with men. So even those figures, some of them may not be present in your life. Somebody could be here and is admiring the principles of Miles Monroe, who died so long ago, but left so much evidence of what it meant to be a man. So we have to be able to teach these things. And we are too focused as a nation, especially on education, passing exams, I mean, I think, you know, when you get to high school, we should cut out some time there for real people. I know these jokers sometimes I see who go there to tell you, oh, you can grow one forest of mahindi from one bean and nonsense like that. But for people to come in and speak to the boy child, especially, on what it means to be a man. So that by 18, 19, 20, you know, they've got a plan for their lives. Because the life they are about to enter, me, I've got 3 daughters. And I worry, you know what I worry about? Whether my daughters will find men, honestly speaking. Even in my church, I have focused myself in teenage groups because I want to empower men so that when my daughters are grown up, they can meet actual men.
Can find someone.
Yeah. I was in college. I was telling her, I keep telling her all the time, don't take a project. Don't take a project. I tell her, Mommy, don't take a project in college. Don't be that woman who is they are busy. All you're doing is washing clothes for your dude, making sure he's eating supper. Na yeye anaenda kusoma. Apite exams. Na wewe unabeba hii project yako hii unamfanyia mapaperwork zake, unamfanyia mathesis zake, unamfanyia maini zake, and then you end up nowhere. And then on the other flip side, we get these dudes who are also alcoholics, they are in gambling, they are in what? We have to reach a point where we have to teach men. I feel very strongly about that.
Okay.
Yeah.
This is men only. I see you are railing towards your daughter. This is men
no,
only.
it's important. I have to have an interest.
This is men only.
I have to have an interest.
Silas, always being man enough.
Being man enough, I think, is about embracing what we call the burden of performance, knowing that being a man is the highest calling for human beings, is the highest responsibility, so that now you find your mission and your goal in life, and you get dedicated to it. You know, the way you are dedicated to your show, The Tackle. Like when you wake up, I'm sure that that's what you think about. You want to be the best, to bring the best out of it. So it's about leadership. It's about embracing that burden of performance so that, you know, as a man, you're supposed to perform for yourself, for your family, for your children. Like your children need to feel secure in you. So that's why we tell men that every day when you wake up, you have to embrace all the responsibilities that are thrown onto you. And it's being proactive about your state. For example, if you lose your job, you don't want to be stuck in the house, you know, crying. You want maybe to tell your wife, like, can you get a loan? I can even get into an Uber, you know, so that now you don't get like into self-pity, you know. You want like to constantly be on a mission. Yeah, you're constantly busy doing something productive. Like at the end of the day when you sleep, my guardian used to tell me that before you eat in the evening, you have to justify why you're eating.
Why you have it?
So we are farmers. Like I used to feed the cows. By the time ng'ombe nakamuliwa, you feel like you've done something. So from, you know, what has happened like over the last few years, that men have become sort of like idle. Like we indulge a lot. We drink a lot. We party a lot, and gambling. You know. So and then now when you run into a problem, most men don't want to proactively solve that problem because every problem has a solution. You either seek help immediately or you get on top of it. So to be man enough actually is just to be responsible. I know that as a man, whether you are a father, you are a teacher, you are employed somewhere, you must fulfill your duties in the most responsible way. Yeah.
Now, there's this thing that you mentioned about men. Men get laid over many times. Companies collapsing, downsizing, you know, for different reasons, men get laid down. And a lot of men, that is when they start dying. Is employment the only thing that men can do? Because we get to this point that imagine that, let's assume that I was working here, I was employed. And then tomorrow, just like what has happened in one of these mainstream media stations, they tell you now from tomorrow, we are sorry, but we might not need your services. You're having a new strategy. Now, should I go home and imagine that I have nothing else to do until I get to do what I was employed to do?
It boils down to...
How do men look at work?
It boils down to your level of self-awareness. Generally, not all of us can be businessmen. Not all of us have that business acumen, you know. But I always tell men that you need to be self-aware that wherever you are at any given time, you need to know what's going on around the world. For example, if you work in the media and you're a newspaper reporter, you probably know that your job is not very secure. Whether you are the boss, whether you are, you know, there are certain industries that will be shrinking. So you need to know that how do you jump very fast to the next stage. Like those who are in the media and they jumped quickly into PR or communication. There are those who ran into the counties. So the idea for a man is to be constantly self-aware that wherever you are, what's coming your way. Because you need to have that prophetic vision in you to know that maybe my business is shrinking. If, for example, you're working in a club and the numbers are dwindling, like maybe you're a club owner, you need to know that maybe I need to shut down this place and either reinvent myself or... So it's that you have to have that in you, like that state of... The foresight to constantly reinvent yourself. Because most jobs by there are about to be, most guys will be rendered redundant in the next 10, 15 years. Because of automation, the way the world is changing, you know, jobs are being shipped over to China, you know, those countries like Indonesia, Bangladesh, you know. So as a man, you need to have that, you need to have that knowledge, that foresight, like what's coming your way, so that you can prepare adequately. You can adjust your life. Maybe if you're living large, you're living in Kilimani and your job is you're about to lose your job, maybe you want to adjust constantly so that you're not...
Anza kuhama pole pole.
You know, anza kujenga. You know, I always tell men that, for example, you have to build a house because you don't want to be in your 40s and you don't have like a roof over your head. Because once you have your house again, it's very good protection. So rather than, like, for example, if you're earning like $1 million, rather than rushing to live in a very good neighborhood, you might want to live modestly and save a bit because there's nothing you want to prove to anyone. Nobody cares about you by the way. You might think, oh, Nikishi neighborhood, watu wataona, oh, jamaa fulani TV presenter mbona naishi hapa. No, nobody gives a damn about that. It's about you and your retirement and your future plans. So you want to have that foresight. So basically, yeah.
How do men look at work, Levi? Today, you told Levi.
I think we get too comfortable, and that's a dangerous thing. Too many men imagine that, you know, in the old days, you know, my father worked for a bank for 27 years. And he could have worked for more. He just left, you know, he took a golden handshake. But in those days, people were working 40 years, 50 years. Mtu akitoka anapewa handshake kubwa, anaenda kwa village, anafanya mambo. Those things are no longer, you know, guaranteed. And it's a very hard reality to face because there is a kind of softness of life that employment gives you, and a foolishness also. You know, you get employed so long that you don't want to try new things, which is why, you know, some of us are trying the other fields that we are trying. Hey, we are writing, we are, you know, trying to do what. I think it's good for a man to just check out and ask yourself, what am I good at? Because there's something you are good at. Sometimes there are 2 or 3. If you're very talented, there are even more than that. And those things that you are good at, which ones can you perfect? Because I can't be Silas, you know, and Silas cannot be Gerald, you know, and vice versa. But there's something that we you can look at yourself and ask, this is what I am good at. This is how I can tap into myself, and this is what can build me. Because that thing you're good at, that thing can feed you. So you have to start nurturing it as early as you can. If earlier, for some of us, we are trying these things when we are already 40 plus. If you can start this thing when you're 20, they are better. You know, because a young man talking to me the other day, he's doing an engineering course at JKUAT, but he's a very good pianist. I told him, bro, as you do the course, focus on the piano, man. This thing will get so good, because I always tell young people, even Versace ni fundi. He's just a fundi.
Fundi wa nguo.
Yeah, the fundi at the top of his game. That's why we know him. There are so many other fundis, yes. Some of them have never gotten out of Kenyatta Market stall 18. And if that's you, by the way, I'm just guessing. But this one is a fundi at the top of his game. So you have to map out early. What are you good at? What can you do? If you're a farmer, start thinking about how you can get into the farming industry and do this. Because if you're not a farmer, please don't try it. It'll burn, really badly, because ati Johnny did it. Ulisikia sijui alichukua shamba Narok na wakafanya na wakauza. If you follow other people, it usually will not work out well. But if you find your niche at something you can do, then you will touch something and it will turn into gold. And then you start doing it earlier, so that in the event that this job that you're having falls through, you can already have something. Even though it may not be so successful, you can already have something you are already building to continue now, seeing whether you can get. Or in some cases, maybe it was already also very successful. This other thing. Okay. In fact, it can be so successful, it can push you out of a job.
Okay. But now in the event that, shit, it's a fun, kazi imeisha, do you sit somewhere and say, unajua mimi nilifutwanga kazi?
I say you go down swinging. You have to go down swinging.
You have that luxury to even sit and start to move. You have to be on top of your game and move as fast as possible. Because that's the moment you start to whine or moan or cry, then you're losing the plot. So any moment, like what basically Levi is saying, that you need to have like an abundance mentality. Like if you're a journalist, also think about other things that you can always do out there. And the sooner, you call it resilience. If you lose your job today, it means the next 1 or 2 months, you have to get something to keep you going. And also when you're working, another thing that people forget, keep on networking. Because if you're a journalist, for example, you can always graduate into other things. If you're an accountant, keep on networking. Don't be one of those guys that when you're working, you just from work, you're going home straight. Okay. Go to the bar, meet other people. Out in the, when you're out there, like try and network as much as possible. Because the people, as soon as they lose this job, we hear that they've gotten another job. It's because of that power of networking. Whether you're introverted or not, always try and keep like a large network of people that can help you. Yeah.
All right, you can also be part of this conversation. You can call in on 0779-800-010 or 779-800-010. You can call in and be part of this conversation. You have a question you also want to ask as well?
By the way, I was just going to piggyback on what he just said. Very important who you're hanging out with while you're doing okay.
Okay.
If you're those guys who, because what was Idiana? Let me tell you, me, I've seen it in my life so many times. What was Idiana? Not necessarily because you must, now I'm friend with Silas, so Silas must do something for me. But in that friendship of ours, and if you're present for people, Silas tomorrow has his daughter, the daughter is graduating, maybe an Anita, I appear there, you have to be there for people because that's currency in itself. When you don't have something going for you, either him or someone else, you met somewhere there or someone else, something will always fall back to you. But if you isolate yourselves, because too many guys go to the top solo, and then they fall down alone all the way to the bottom.
Pangolo pangala.
So you have to keep your networks alive.
Okay.
And you must keep them by checking on guys, how are guys doing, because you never know. In life, there's we see it so many times that we tell stories of people who are ministers and today they are walking. In fact, there's a former minister I met the other day outside the bank. I said hi to him, hey, how are you, mheshimiwa? He got excited. That's how I story. And I was just thinking, 2-3 years ago, if I had gone to his office to knock on his door, I would have hit a wall big time. But now I'm the first person maybe who has called him Mheshimiwa.
In a long time.
In a long time. But alisahau hivi tuisha. Hivi tuisha bana.
All right. Another is true. And I think that's what we often don't get. That, on the journey up, you also need to build your ladder down. Yeah, you need to think about.
So it'll be good people on your way up. They'll be good on your way down.
That was a reggae song, I think by Lucky Dube or something. Yeah. All right. There's a name here, I'm trying to read the comments, but there's a very difficult name here. Ngonizashe Choko. Being in the diaspora and only one working in the family, I'm failing to save for my retirement and I'm starting to feel tired. People at home, they can't even do for themselves. I'm the provider. What can I do, please? Because it appears as if I'm going the same way of suffering when I retire. That's a question for you guys, for the panel.
Simple.
Can I read it again?
The idea there is...
No, we were talking about black tax. He's
Black
saying
tax.
he's working in diaspora. He's the only one working in the family. And everybody in the family has their plates open. He's saying, wekelea, bakuli. And he's worried that he might just end up retiring poor.
It's a big problem, and the only way to solve it, you teach people to fish. You don't give them fish. So whoever is helping, there must be responsibilities tied to that. If he's paying for your college, it must be strictly for you to finish college and get work. And, there's always a ceiling to someone who's giving, but there's no ceiling to whoever's taking.
Yes.
A receiver can take and take and take and take, but a giver, you're limited. There's a young man who came to my inbox, and I think he's the firstborn, and they're like 8 in their family. And he's only a school teacher, and he's overburdened. Like, he was telling me that he's even gambling, To me, I told him, no, that doesn't work like that. If it means you have to suspend that kind of wealth to at least take care of yourself, even if for a bit, you have to. Like, there's a certain measure of selfishness that is required if you're going to safeguard yourself, because you can't solve all the world's problems, however good you want to be.
So you get a window, you say,
he needs to find a way that he can help those people to provide for themselves. Ship them to the Middle East, open doors for them to go abroad, open a business for them. If it's a young man, buy them a Buddha. But, do something that will make these people to not to depend on you for longer than 2 years. Because when you're providing, unless someone is in high school, some of us, even in college, like I started making money before I joined college. So we need to teach also young people to be that level of dependence. It has to be like you are only helping someone to get somewhere. It's not like someone wakes up in the morning, they don't want to do anything, and you're helping them. So he needs to open doors for them, open businesses for them, but also he needs to be selfish a bit. Selfish is a vice, but at some point you have to think about it, because these people he's helping.
You have to say, I can't.
If he runs into problems in the future, these people might not even be there.
Will not be there.
Mtu anakuambia like mimi sikwambia unisaidie, ama atasema ulitumia pesa yako vibaya, So you have to also, whether they are brothers, your parents, nini, you have to know when to say no and draw some boundaries.
What's his name, you said?
But
That guy, you said his name is what? Go?
it is called Gonedzashe Choko.
Choco.
Yes.
Be okay with saying it's not possible right now. Maybe if
Don't
no,
feel
it's
guilty.
difficult.
Don't feel guilty.
Don't feel guilty. Just say it's not possible.
Like as long as from the goodness of your heart, God knows that you've done your best.
Yeah. Because you cannot save someone if you're drowning yourself.
Yeah.
That's all I always say.
You have to save yourself first.
Yeah.
But then again, are we speaking enough about black tax? You see, and they tell you, they threaten you with curses if you don't do this, you don't do that, to be cursed. Are we? When you look at the places like Europe, for instance, I mean, you have your shit right, plan out your life. If you mess up, that's even including parents are being taken to home care, nursing centers. That's why they say mtoto anakwambia mazi wewe ulicheza mbaya, na wewe unaweza ndo utulie hapa kwa nursing home. Are we having a conversation enough about the continuity of poverty in Africa, in the sense that I'm your father, I do less, then I transfer my burden to you. You start with my burden. Unasukuma na burden mpaka unafika 40, you're still pushing my burden. Then you also fail to secure the future of your dependence.
It's a very vicious cycle.
Then it becomes a cycle. Are we speaking enough about black tax in Africa?
Me and our guy I was in college with who had when in his first job his dad called him and gave him a pro forma of with the mambo itaenda and how much money he was to give home. And he was giving this money even when he got married. When he got a wife, it became an issue.
So it's a big issue.
It's a big issue. Unasukuma 40,000 nyumbani out of a salary of 100,000 every month. You have been doing it because honor your father, honor your mother, that your days may be long.
You don't want long days.
You don't want your days shortened.
Tuma pesa. Your days will be shortened.
Na mzee anangojea 27th asharusha. Anajua banks nalipa 24th. Kwambia it's been 3 days you guys.
Umechelewa.
What's happening?
Your days longer.
I think also, as much as we also say that you have to get to that point where you have to find a balance, because all these things, they never end. Even your own salary, if you ask yourself critically speaking, sometimes good economists will want to tell you, your salary itakuwa ni 35, 25% rent, 15% food, 10% what, nini. There are many other factors, very good in theory.
Yeah.
There are many other factors that check in that are unheard of, bana. You never envisioned coming. You know, you get sick, your daughter gets sick, your son is, is unwell over some ailment. The school requires a certain school trip, and you'll go to the teacher decides tomorrow an energy giraffe center. Those things were not in your budget. Boom, now they are in. Yeah? And then things just happen and your budget gets topsy-turvy. So already for you, it's already a pressure. Then add that now with your parents. You have to reach a point where you balance it out. And I think one of the best ways people can balance it out, especially when they are much younger, is learn to keep some things for yourself. For example, you've gone to college, you've worked hard, and you've gotten your first salary. Shut up about it. It's your business. You just send home that 5K. And don't have to make it end the month. Be intermittent so that you've got an expectation to the fact. When you start sending it as an expectation to the bill, what you create, the monster you feed is the one that will hunt you down. Okay. So don't feed the monster in making those things. And in the same manner, as we grow older also ourselves, let's learn and not be those parents who are using our children as retirement plans.
Absolutely.
You know, you're sending your child to university so that apite atusaidie tukiwa wazee. Yeah. You know, we also need to stop that nonsense of dependency, because God has given us this life to be able to acquire, get, you know, produce ourselves and be able to be. Because if your child tomorrow goes and then it does not work out, because I see so many children at home with their parents at 39, at 37, alafu. What will happen? God forbid. Your child is at home now, he's a drunkard. He's just been in 55 rehabs and now he's just there. So you have to balance out. You have to balance out.
I think also black tax is generally a problem with the economy. If the economy is doing badly, the black tax shoots up. You realize, like when Kibaki came to power, when Kenya was doing very well, you find that the level of dependence goes low. So it's also like for us to pray that the new government can try and open more doors, because if in a family of 5 and 2 or 3 people are working, it means the level of dependence goes down. So that's also another thing that one of the ways that we can solve black tax in Africa, not just in Kenya, is to make sure that our economies are working, so that now more people are employed, more people are working, businesses working. That's the only way that we can solve this. But as long as the economy is doing badly, black tax, especially now, the last 10 years have not been very good economically. So now you find that the level of dependence goes high because people are losing jobs. Something like sickness, we need to find a way that we can make something like NHIF to work. Because if your parent becomes sick, but the state can take care of that through NHIF, that's good. If your parent is retiring and their retirement can cater for them, that's good enough. So those are some of the things that we need to think at from a broader scale now. But at an individual level, the best way always is to empower people. You know, sometimes there's like a power that we feel when you're helping people there and they're depending on you. There's like a power that you feel. You need to get rid of that pride in you.
That's true.
And find a way.
Even families wait over Christmas.
Teach people to fish for themselves.
But they can't make a decision.
Until
Gerald atoke Nairobi akuje.
You know the way in the past, like, used to come to Nairobi and you're living with your uncle, unawekwa teke and unamaliza kutoka Kenya Poli hivi, you hit the road and start searching for songa, like, you know. So we need to get back to that level that if someone is helping you, like when I finished high school, I came here, I was living with my cousin right in Kibera, you know. He took me to a computer school, paid for my computer college, Crisco's center there, you know. I learned how to type very fast, and before long I was writing stories in the newspaper, you know. That kind of like ensuring that someone is...
You're moving your way.
You're moving, like our friends abroad, I was telling them the economy is not doing very well. Can they ship their cousins, their brothers, their sisters to the Middle East? Those are not like the best of the jobs, but at least someone is earning something and it's keeping them busy from vices like gambling, from alcohol, you know. Okay. So we have to think like that. Teach people to fish.
All right. So that is for children now. There's something that Levi has brought out and maybe that's what it takes us to the last, almost towards the last question. We finish at 10 p.m. Now, are children a retirement plan?
Are the children?
A retirement plan. Is it a responsibility to bring up children and prepare them for their lives, or it's an investment? You're saying, wewe nakupeleka shule na kufanya hivi ndio kesho. Are children investment? Are there an investment plan? That use, a retirement plan, that is. Are there a retirement plan?
Sadly.
In Africa, especially for, it's all about which generation breaks through first. Especially for my generation, I think us millennials, we've been the first because of education and because of Kibaki. We were the first in our families maybe to start making big money. So it depends which generation breaks through. First, there's that generation that made it during independence. Then there are those parents who struggled and, did their best to make sure that we went to school. Now, for us now as millennials, we really don't have to burden our children with that responsibility. I was telling Levi earlier on that the biggest blessing you can give your children when they turn 18 is a head start. If your child wants to start a podcast, can you get him or her the equipment to start off? Those small I've seen the difference they make, especially for rich parents. If the son wants to get into music, the son wants to start a business, you want to support them immediately to get that head start, because the sooner you start making money and you're responsible, the better life you're going to have ahead. So for us millennials, or any other parent who's tuned in, you have to make sure that your children have that advantage, because that advantage is what they also pass on to the children. So it's like at some point you have to break this vicious cycle. Like it has to end, and everyone who's listening, it's their responsibility to make sure that it ends with them, and they have to try their best, and there's a way that it can end.
Yeah, I think there's two ways. First of all, as a parent, I don't think you should expect, if a child comes and gives you something, let it be, a blessing because they came and did it. But let it not be an expectation, because it puts undue pressure on the kid to perform and maybe do even some crazy things. There are some women who are prostituting themselves, basically so they can support,
Yeah, true.
back home, because they came to Nairobi. So you don't know what pressure they're undergoing over here so that they can make it happen for you back there. I mean, if we look at some of the cases we've had of young people who are scamming people and, getting into all manner of problems with cryptocurrency especially and stuff like that. There's that pressure to perform. And some of them are from villages back there, so even to perform, so they can perform and show back. So for parents, they need to ease the pressure. Of course, if in your family, you end up getting a Messi, at our side here, that's now heaps and tons of money. It will behoove that person who the much has given, much is expected, to turn back and give. But those are not all families, Not all of us can produce those children who go and become multi-billionaires and things like that. The main aim is to get them to be able to survive on their own. If we can do that, then we have parented.
Okay.
That should be the main aim.
So you give your children a head start, not a dead start. Stop giving your children dead starts and give them head starts. So that they hand it over, and then the chain becomes lighter as you move forward. Each generation gets a lighter burden to carry.
I've seen some people argue in a very stupid way that, it's not me to empower my child. I've taken them to school. They should. That is the ticket to poverty.
No, anataka kwe ati, there's a fear of softening the kiddo. Unamsoften sana na tufitu at the expense of them knowing the value of hard work. I still think even as a parent, you can still teach the value of hard work.
We need to be like Indians.
And you can begin it early.
Yeah, begin it early. If you have a shop, take the child as well. If you see he or she's not interested in the business, find what they like. And empower them towards that line.
Show them what's up,
But as I said, the biggest advantage you can give your child is a head start.
Yeah. But I think okay, bare minimum, just a start.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you don't even want to give them a head start, just give them a start.
Give them a start.
Let them start from zero, not from negative.
Yeah.
Unless they need to
start from zero.
somewhere.
Yeah, there's some parents who came from basement 4. Okay. At zero, they've gone 4 stories.
At least I'm assuming that's education, right?
That's education, yeah. At zero, man, there are those, if you say that, floor 1, then, try and give your child floor 2.
I think what needs to happen is what we need to think, and actually this is to our sons more majorly, because some of those people need to find a way to navigate through life is, and let's not allow our sons or our children to carry on burdens. I think it makes more sense. We might not want to give them PS4, nini, piano, and wacheze, but at least make sure that a baby yako.
That's a good point you've said, especially, I've realized daughters like if you've gone to a school, I teach, daughters seem to be more proactive, but boys seem to have lost that mojo. So I don't know how we can fire up young boys.
It's us again.
It's us again, like Fal, you know? We have to find a way that we can pump some energy into the young boys so that they can also know that they belong to the world. Because girls are very, very confident, very ambitious, like they're on their purpose. So you need to find a way that can also...
And I think it's about the campaigns. It has to be about the campaigns that are run around the girl child. There's been a lot of campaigns over time, over close to 2 decades now. I think the third one. There's been a lot of campaigns around women, reminding them that, you have the power to be successful. You have people that you need to look up to. The world is there for you to take it up. These are campaigns that have happened around women and girl child. Yeah. Well, we appreciate that because they're all our children. They all balance up. Yeah. We also need to start thinking about them. Like you were saying, it's a sad thing because when you find an average boy right now on the streets, there's no orientation for life. There's no motivation. There's nothing to look forward to. Mwanaume anasema bora yeye ameamka, amekula kitu, amelala, kesho ifike, it takes care of itself. There's no ambition.
Yeah, I get so concerned.
There's no sense of ambition.
When I see young boys with only one ambition, to win some betting competition.
Yeah, nasema tu alizaliwa akabeta akakufa.
Part of the problem is that, Kitambo, life was really mapped out. You finish high school, college, you marry, you get work and start a family. But that order sort of has been broken. There's no guarantee that if you finish college, you'll get a job. Yeah. There's no guarantee that you'll get a wife. There's no guarantee that you'll marry and it will work, So sort of now men are kind of lost. But now we have also teach them that in spite of all this, that maybe marriage might be a problem, but still you have to live for yourself. You have to find meaning within yourself. I think that's where we are lost because the difference between boys and girls already by the time she's born, she has her life mapped out. And they have options. I saw some feminists come to me telling that the economy is really bad. At this moment in time, they don't mind marriage. Like you see now, they have that option. For men who don't have that option,
Kukidoka, you can always
you can't time out. So you need to teach them from the time they're young that if marriage won't work or you won't have a job or a business, you still have yourself to live for. Yeah, because right now, because if you have no family, no woman, sometimes most men don't find any motivation to even take a shower, Because something positive about women is that they bring the best in us. So if you don't have a woman maybe to bring that best in you, you have to find it in you now to bring the best out of yourself.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Titus Kalonge, why the lady scale the ladder, the higher the chances? Oh, okay. Then this maybe meant the higher the lady scales the ladder, the higher the chances of breakup. Some other round dog sets in through Fanaka Kaki. I'm tempted to view. You already viewed. It's a criminal offense. Ezra MK, deep talk with amazing guest following Kilne. Thank you. Nelson Sigila iko chonjo. Asante sana Kabon. Sara pia umeingia hapa ni kwa wazee peke yao. Hakuna kutoka, tuko na questions but I totally support boy child. And tumia swali zako nione. And that is loud and clear. Asante sana Kimba, keep quiet, good debate. Thank you. Ezra, nice show. Kevin Kigensige, the first 27 things about the audio. Thank you. We'll fix it up. Noni Belem, so my long-term crush, Silas Nyanchwani. Allah, hey, Nyanchwani. Mambo ndio.
It's a woman.
It's a woman.
It's a twisted wall.
Oh, so it's a woman. Yeah.
Beautiful friend, but La Patrona, come we laugh. Okay, it's a men's show only. Watch at the end. I would give anything to have Damaris Muga and Shiko Kimani on the panel. Right, it'll be interesting to see how it turns out with a woman on the panel. Gideon Kipkaj, good lessons. Men learn to save your money. Retirement and certainty is running so fast. Doing Masharia M. Exactly what a man needs to cancel from fellow men. This is good. Thank you. Vitalis Adea iko sawa. Asante sana Vitalis. I'm preparing my retirement plan. Very important. Kitobu ambitious. Niko ndani. Asante. Samson Kabiru. Great discussion. Lots of deep insights. Thank you. Purity Chabolger. I ain't leaving this discussion. I will be in Andy in my empowerment sessions. Oh, okay. Kamo Wanjiru. Silas, your articulation on issues is on another level. I like the discussion. Men and on their own. Only God knows them. All right, Edwin Shikuku, Asante Betty Mulongo. Loving this discussion. Yes, if you decide to help people, whether they're your family members or not, please let them know the limit of your help. In short, set limits when it comes to helping people, and to learn to say no when people try to cross those limits. All right. Bernard Mwangi, the boy child today is struggling because the environment outside their homes does not provide them with space to be the best, to be beasts of nature. Forests are grabbed, community playgrounds and sports recreation spaces no longer exist. A boy cannot rise to a man in a concrete jungle. And I think that's that's quite something. I've been running around the estate. There's nowhere for children. They just sit in the house playing games on really. Mungai Polo, that boy child conversation should be followed up with action. Kijana huku nje anataka hii awareness that he needs purpose. You guys are mentors, all right?
Actually, everyone should mentor. We can't mentor every Kenyan boy.
Mentor mtu.
You have to mentor. You have to purpose to help, because I think also that's another problem that I must counter that immediately. There's too much expectation that someone else will fix it for us. You know? There are men out there in their homes hoping that they're going to send their sons to some camp. They're going to send them to, you know, some seminar, some pastor somewhere. Somebody will fix your child, fix your boy for you. And that is where the mess really begins, because too many of us have abdicated that responsibility, hoping it will be fixed. And then we get to 22, 23, this young boy is wild and crazy and completely out of his senses. And then we are wondering, nini mbaya na huyu mtoto? But we decided a long time ago, because we tuliweka free. Okay. So there's no one coming to save you.
And then some men only nimejipata.
No, it's us. The responsibility is on us.
It's us.
And I think the biggest message is, I mean, nobody's going to rescue you. Nobody's coming to rescue you. And that's the biggest message this evening. It's 2 minutes past 10 p.m. Maybe you can have your last words. I'll start with you, Sailu.
I think thank you for starting this. We need to have bigger and bigger platforms to get this message out there. And we really need to be positive. And the division that we have in society is not about men versus women. It's a collective problem. There are problems with women and there are problems with men. But now we can focus on how we can make men to be better for themselves, better for their families, and better for society. Because in a society where men don't step up into their roles, where we have weak men, they breed or they cause so much pain to the entire society. Yeah, so the responsibility for a proper society is on men. It's not on women. It's us to prop up the kind of country, the kind of society that you want. And I'm glad that the mainstream media has really shied away from these kind of conversations because men are not good for business. But I'm glad that people like you, myself, and Levi and others are trying to use their spaces to at least articulate these issues. So thanks, Gerald.
Right. Levi.
Yeah, I think that some words he has taken that I was thinking about. I was going to say, there's an old adage that says that if you empower a man, you empower an individual, but if you empower a woman, you empower the society. I've heard that many times. I think you guys have heard it. But I think if you fix a man, you fix the entire nation.
That was the biggest love of century.
That was the Beijing convention.
We're not saying like it's wrong to empower women, by the way.
We're not saying it's wrong to empower
women. Sorry to cut Levi again. I'm not saying like it's wrong to empower women. Let's empower everyone. But also, we need to pay special attention to men.
Yeah. Most of the problems we have are emanating from us. Most of the solutions can be fixed by
come from us. Yeah.
If you look at domestic violence, men by far are the worst perpetrators. If you look at issues to do with depression, men by far are the most depressed lot. If you look at issues of suicide, men by far are committing more suicides than any other demographic of gender we have. If you look at even issues to do with war, who's going to war? Men. Ukraine ni nani wameanzisha? I mean, and if you look at the issues that then come to affect us, even the effects of war, even PTSD, is suffered more by men than women. Name it, cancers, it's men who have the cancers more than women by far. So it's important for the man-child to be looked at again. I've had some people in some quarters talking about, let's look at the boy-child, but again I'll end by saying there is no fixer. It's all of us to rise up and have this conversation and ask ourselves, where are we going? So that in our own villages, circles, courtyards and discussion blocks, we can gather together and bandy around groups of men who will be able to help. Let me just end by saying one thing. You know where I live, there was a gentleman who was a doctor who passed on this year. And this gentleman was almost 40 years old. And before he passed on, we had problems with him as a courtyard. He had issues, alcoholism, coming at late at night, honking the car, horn at the security guard. We have got one gate and then many apartments in that gate. And we decided as a group of men in the court to form a kikao, to have discussions amongst ourselves, because he wasn't just the only guy. There were some 2 or 3 other young men who were having issues with alcoholism and some wildness at night. One of them was a single dude. Kila wakati he comes with a different lady. There's some noise out of his house, blah, 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 those kind of things. So we said, as men, maybe those of us who are older should sit down with the younger ones to talk. While we were having this discussion, this guy got into, an alcoholic mess that spiraled out of control, got him sick, and then he passed on. And then we looked at ourselves. This is this year as a court. And we lost a brilliant guy, a brilliant doctor, young. Left, young kids, And we asked ourselves, did we play a role in letting go of the situation? Because the days where people used to input in other people's lives are so far gone that no one even cares to know who their neighbor is. You don't give a damn. You just read about them in the paper one day, and then you're like, nanaka familia, those are the things we need to stop, because all of us cannot be helped only by the people we know. Me, I'm there thinking, me and my children. My child might need to move somewhere and might meet Silas's child who might impart something in them that may change them for an eternity. If we can start this process, then we can help each other, because we never know what the future is in store for us. So it's a concern that we must address quickly, and stop this thing of being in isolations and in packs, and the only guys you want to know are the ones you went to school with, or you grew up in the same hood with mlicheza lifunona, those guys, or are the same guys who are earning the most money as you, or that kind of nonsense. We need to spread our wings further and even have discussions, even with the next door guy. Even that Gazzetti guy can impart something in you. So let's not allow anyone, and let's not, block off anyone. Even when I sit on a motorbike, I have a discussion with the motorbike guy. Sometimes just about life, what story. You can get something from that dude's perspective and what is happening. But the conversations must start. And I know men don't like talking, but for us to get to those spaces, we must start talking to each other, even in those spaces. Because they help. Because that Uber guy is going through the same problems I'm going through, the same problems you're going through, the same problems the Boda guy is going through. All of them may be in different scales, but they're all happening at the same time. So tusaidiane.
Tusaidiane. Edna said, men only. Let's encourage the boy child the way we encourage girl child. Mheshimiwa Jude Chensire, we are focused so much on politics, but we have forgotten critical life discussions that build character and person. And trust me, men are really suffering and require such forums to learn so that they don't suffer in silence. Mungai Paulo kweli, menta mahali ulipo. Asante. Jafet Kiblagat, equipping the boy child to be able to cope with an empowered guy child is important. Ngoni Zashe Choko. Well done, guys. We need more of these discussions. Asante sana. Thank you. Mungai Paulo. Cheers, guys. That was a good show, a good conversation. Sailo, ukiingia kite, tunaweza kamata pia mbili. Naona tayari umeshaitiwa kitu ya kuosha koo. That's it. These are the good things that Kinazailo enjoying today. Invitations at 10 p.m. If men take their leadership position right, everything will be in place. Insightful discussion. Keep it up. Thank you. This was our first show on the men only. This was our first men only show. Thank you so much, Silas, for making time to come in. It was a pleasure to have you. And I think we still need to have.
Tushautia Senegal kidogo.
Senegal with England.
Wanachapa England sasa. Go Senegal, go.
I'm still with my colonizers.
You're taking the colonizers.
I don't know. What are some of the things that you guys have picked from this World Cup? Because I think also men, a lot of men get to congregate around football.
Let me say something before Silas says. Yeah. Me, I like the fact that underdogs have upset some things. I think it's a very good thing. Right. I think it's a reality of life. Mm-hmm. that sometimes some of the smallest guys can do some of the greatest things and upset some of the, the greatest know-hows. I like such things. Seeing Germany going home was great. Seeing the Americans go home was excellent, And I hope that will be like the trend going forward.
Until you become the bigger dog. You don't want to go home.
There's a lot to learn from football for men. And of course, I'm supporting Senegal, but I have no illusion that they'll win. But if they win, good for Africa.
That's boring. You're supporting the Turkey.
I'm a realist.
We want diehards in this
I'm a realist. I think England is a better team, but let's hope that Arsenal can win, and rather Senegal will win.
And it's also their game. Football came from England.
Yeah.
So it will be very embarrassing for them to lose their own match. But well, let's wait and see. I think I'm one of the few luckiest men who don't get depressed over football. After this, I'm going to sleep very peacefully. Nyumbani kulala. Jamani watakuwa kesho na depression ya football. Natakia kila laheri. It's been the Men Only show. This first show. Thank you so much for joining us. It's been a pleasure. We're hoping to have the builder bigger and better. Please keep sharing this conversation with the men around you. And if you're a woman listening, please ensure that you can push the link and push this conversation to other men that you have in your life so that you can make this place a better society. I hope you picked up something this evening as a man planning for your retirement. Cutting the chain of poverty by ensuring that we lessen the burdens that we hand over to generations. And also ensuring that as a man, Silas, I said, it's a burden of responsibility. The burden that somehow you just have to keep to be seen like you're doing something. They say be like a duck. Looks calm on top, but pedals like crazy under the weather, under the water. All right. I wish you all the very best as the new week begins. Tomorrow is Monday, so I wish you amkeni mapema tuchangamkie kazi. Tuonane kesho kwenye Common Sense Edition. Until then, enjoy your night and see you again tomorrow. Peace be with you. This is a Man Only, and it ends now. Bye-bye.